we want to cover basic concepts in programming with Java. Just go through the course with me. Now I want to start the software. I'll be using IntelliJ IDEA by JetBrains. You can just go to the website www.jetbrains.com and download the community edition. So the software has started. Let's start a new project. So I'll go to File, New, then Project. File, New, then Project. File, New, then Project. Then we're going to select Java and make sure SDK version is selected. You can leave it at the default. If you do not have one that is downloaded already, then you have download JDK Java Development Kit. So we will leave it at the default, and then we will just proceed to next. Then we will create from template and select command line app so that we use the console. Right, I want to call this, give your software, your project a name. I'll call it Learning Java. Specify where you want to store it. By default, it's stored under IDEA projects. Then you can leave the package as is. So let's give it a minute to build that. You have to specify whether you want to use the current window or you want to have another window. So I'll just use the current window. And here we are with a project. So let's understand this default template before we go to doing something more. So this is the project view. Always set it to project view so that you can see all your projects here. Inside the project folder, that's where you have your project. Let's open that. And inside that we have the sources folder, SRC. We can open that. Inside that we have the package name. Package is a unique name for any application or a Java application. We'll understand that more as we move on. So inside the package we have the Java code. Call it a class for now. So here we have the class, which is the main class, which is where we will be writing our code. In future we're going to have so many classes here, and it's important to know where to get this class in case you could not trace it. So supposing we close this, then going back here to the package and name, we are able to access this. Anytime before you write a program, it's good to use the current, the default template and confirm that your code runs. So I will write a simple statement here to just confirm that this code can run before we go into doing more. So system dot out dot print line, just type hello and run this. To run this you can use this icon here or this icon here. So let me use this one here, run main, see whether the output will pop up. Right, waiting for the output, it's building. Right, might take a while for the first time. Okay, so waiting for the output anytime, and there you go, it says hello, meaning that everything is well set. So let's understand this. In a Java project, we'll have the package, which is the outermost container. Then inside a package, we can have many classes, and in each class, we can have many methods. And this is important because as we move on, we'll be having a single project having so many classes and each class having so many methods. So I want us to look at the first thing that we need to know about Java, and that is how to use how to declare variables and data types. So I will create a new class and just call it variables and data types, and from there we can learn that. So I'll go to the project. On the project, I right click, add, right click. So on the project, right click, then add new, rather click on new, then Java class. I'll call this data types variables. inside this class, we just want to study data types and variables. So select class, then here we are, data types, variables. We want to use this to cover that. So each class has to have a main function. So we will just start by creating the main function, and you don't have to type everything. The moment you type main and click on that, Java will populate that part of code that you need. All right, so let's pick from here. So we start with data types for values that have no decimal points, rather integer values. So we could use int, let's say int number is equals to 45 number, and this is for numbers that have no decimal point. Maybe we just want to print this back to the screen. System.out.println. The number is, and you can append the number here using the plus sign number, and you can run that to just display that on the screen. It's it's popping up in a minute. So int is not the only data type that we can use for numbers that have no decimal points. We actually have a number of variables that we can use. Sorry, I'm running the previous class, so let me click on this so that I can run this class. Here you go, the number is 45. So depending on the size of the variable, we can use other data types like short, like long, like short, long, can I remember the other data types? Byte, very small number, so numbers that have no decimal point, you can actually use any of this. For example, I could change this instead of integer to byte and just print it in the same manner. So let me run this, and you see it works in the same way, but the amount of space reserved depends on the data type that you pick. All right, that is short, long. All right, for numbers that have decimal points, then we can use a different data type. Let me just copy this here and change it to a number that has decimal point. So for decimal point, we can use float. I'll now change this to something like 45.45. Remember, we cannot use number because it's already declared. So let me write float number. Let me see where the error is. All right, telling me to cast it to float. Let me use double, yes. You can see that double is working, and we can just print the number here, float number. And when you run this, you see that we are able to print the number that has decimal points. So for numbers that have decimal points in Java, you can use float or double. Most of the times we will be using double. Just like for numbers that have no decimal points, most of the times you will be using int. So take note of that. Int for numbers without decimal point, double for numbers with decimal points. Take note of that. The other data type that is so common in Java is Boolean. Boolean stores the value true or false. For example, let me just declare a file, a variable file open. Stores like a status. Is the file open? It's like a status. So this can either store the value true or false, and Boolean is very handy when we start writing programs. So I want to print something based on the status of the file. So here I'll write is file open. If file open is equals to true, then I want to print something here. System dot out dot println, rather print line, I will just type open, else. But if that is not the case, I will type file close. Let me copy this so that we don't spend much time on this. So closed. All right, so let me run this so that we see. Okay. So it's running. We want to see whether it will print open or closed. So it says file is open because we have set the status of file open to true. Let me set this to false. Then see what happens. We run it again. Okay, wait. See now, the output, it says it's closed. So look at that. Now, there's one more thing we can do because file open is already Boolean, then we don't need this part is true. We don't need that part. As is now, it will run because file open contains the value true or false. And if you run, you see that you're able to run that. Says closed. And if you change it to true, you can run. So take note of that. When you have Boolean, you don't need to say is equals to true or false. Just by putting a value that reduces to Boolean here, you're able to run the program. Right, the next data type that we want to look at is char. Char stores a single character. So I could say char first character in name is equals to, I could get some name like A. Remember, characters are single quoted here. So let me print this. Let me copy this line here. The first character in name. Then I just print this here. And I type first character in name, and we will be able to print that. I'll run this program. It's about to pop up, and there we go. First character in name is A. These are the primitive data types. We have another data type which is not part of the primitive. Primitive, we mean built-in rather. So the next data type is string. String is not built-in, though very common. So a string is double quoted gen. Then we can print this name. Take note of the difference between a string and a character. So I will print, this is not a good data type. Let me use lowercase here. This is convention. Name. And then I'll change this to my name is, we can run this now. So there you go. My name is Jen. Look at how simply we declared a string, stored the value Jen, and we were able to print that. Strings have a lot of inbuilt functions within Java. Java has so many inbuilt functions to support strings. For example, just look at this. I want to print the first 3 characters of this name. 3 characters of this name. So I put dot here and look for a method called substring. And the first thing here, it's asking us, where do you want to start? So I'll start from 0 and stop at 2. 0 and stop at 2, and I'll be able to print 3 characters. So let me change this to 3 characters and run that. Right, it's almost popping up here. Oh yeah, there you go. 3, it's actually 2 characters, so if we need 3, then we need to extend this from 2 to 3. Let's print that. And there's so many other functions. As we compile that, as we wait for the output, we can be thinking of the next one. Actually, another function, the output is there, John. Right, supposing I delete this method, comma, character at, I need a single character, like character is at a specific index. So if I need the first character only, I would put 0 there and then run that. Alright, you can see it's J here, uppercase. But if I needed to translate that J into lowercase j, so I'd put another dot here. That is for the name, dot, then look for a method called to lowercase right here. And that's all I need. I will convert the name to lowercase. Name in lowercase, and you can discover many other methods that work with strings. It's running, almost popping out the output here. There you go, Jen in lowercase. You see how this is not complex, right? So those are the key data types: integer, float, char, and string. And we've said string is not built in data type. It's not one of the built-in data types. Okay, so by convention, we need to create Java variables that relate to what we want to do. For example, I want to do a very simple program to just calculate the area of, let's say, a triangle. Right, so I first will declare the variables that I want to use. So the first variable would be, we expect that this will have decimal points, so I'll use double for area. That's where we will store the area once we are done. So it's a triangle, so what do we need for the triangle? For us to be able to calculate the area of a triangle, we will need the length and the width. So we can assume that the length is integer and the width is also integer. So look at the convention of naming Java. The first word, the first letter of the first word starts in lowercase. If you have 2 words, the next word starts with uppercase. So this, I could call this area triangle, for example. You know, 2 words. If you have 3 words, then you have the first word here lowercase, this one here uppercase, and the next one is also uppercase. So let me compute this. So area of triangle is equals to length multiplied by width, multiplied by width, all of this divided by 2. So it's complaining because we have not initialized these values. So let's initialize these values. Length is 12, width is 6, for example. So that's what we have. All right. So what would we do with this answer? Let's assume all that we need to do is to print this on the screen. So type area is use plus sign to concatenate or to join. Okay, so let's run this program and see whether we have a few things that we can learn more from this. Right, it's running. There you go. The area is 36. 36. There are a number of things. Supposing this value here was, I need numbers that have a lot of decimal points, like 7, and then this a value like 3. Let's run, see what we will find or what the output will be. So it says 10, even though we know that this answer must be 10.5. We'll talk about that later. For now, let's focus on declaring the variables, the conventions, and how to receive inputs from the user at runtime. Input at runtime. So let's try ask the user to supply these variables, rather values, instead of having them hard coded into the code, right? So let's talk to the user. System.out.println, and we tell the user enter the length. Then let's receive this. To receive this input, we will need to use another Java class called scanner class. So scanner, let's declare an object for the scanner. An object is just an instance of this particular class. So scanner class, new scanner, then system.in. So we have initialized this object, and now we can use it to receive the input. So we type input.next. If we want to read an integer, like right now we want to read an integer for the length, then we will look for next int here. Next int here. All right. So when we read an integer, it will be stored and it will be received by this method, and we need to assign that to length. So look at that. I want to put this slightly above this statement because we will be reusing it, and it's good to make our code very clear. So these two lines here are receiving the length. So I will retype these two lines here so that I now can receive the width. So enter the width. And right here, I will change it to width. Remember, we are using the input, the object input. In this program, anytime, in this particular class, anytime we want to read input, we can just reuse this. So now, there's no need for this 7. There's no need for this 3, but even if you left them there, they would be overwritten, so it's really still okay. So now we have a value for length, we have a value for width, and we can now proceed to calculate the area here. So let's run, let's see what the difference is. All right. We expect now that the program will be a bit more interactive. It will ask us to enter the length, and right here, asking for us to enter the value of the length. So I will enter 36. Okay, enter width 12. And when you enter, you'll see the value, or rather the value which is the area of the triangle. So that's how to receive input at runtime, and also how to declare variables.